You acknowledge that there's been no starvation, correct?
No,
You don't acknowledge
I
that.
don't acknowledge that.
The
You
internet-
say none of this has happened. You see everything to the. There's nothing to see here, Gus.
No.
Israel has done no wrong.
Piers Morgan annihilates Dave Rubin's shocking Israel lies. And yes, that's exactly what happens in here. In this clip, Piers Morgan goes head-to-head with Dave Rubin, and Rubin proceeds to self-destruct in real time. He denies starvation, denies land grabs, even denies reality itself. And it ends up making him look like a glorified PR intern for the Israeli government. This breakdown isn't polite, it isn't neutral, and it absolutely isn't blind to the hypocrisy. We're going to expose Rubin's mental gymnastics, Piers' rare moment of clarity, and the brutal dishonesty that fuels this entire exchange. Buckle up. This is a demolition, and we are going to find the real truth.
No.
Have they done anything wrong?
I don't know how to conduct a war exactly,
that's not
but
my
I know that if
It's not my question. Has the Israeli government done anything wrong in the way they prosecuted this war?
not that I know
Okay.
of.
We begin with Dave Rubin doing his usual routine, pretending facts don't exist. Pierre asks him a simple question about starvation in Gaza, and Rubin folds like wet cardboard. Rubin's answer, a smug, clueless no. He refuses to acknowledge the starvation that every credible organization, from the UN to medical NGOs, has documented. This isn't debate, it's gaslighting dressed up as commentary. Rubin's logic is basically, if I don't personally see it, it's not real. Congratulations. That's toddler-like reasoning. Pierre doesn't even need to argue. Rubin impales himself. This isn't the first moment the audience realizes what's wrong with Rubin, but it is the first moment the audience realizes Rubin is losing. He is also vanishing.
Piers Morgan recently took on Dave Rubin in a debate about Israel. And as with most things that Dave Rubin does, it was deeply embarrassing for him. We're going to go through more of it, hear more lies and insanity from Rubin, including a hilarious shout out he gave to Cenk. But first, Cenk, what are your 2 cents about what we just saw?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's a redemption arc for me, but there, I just said it. Because look, guys, you have to do the strategy based on who you're dealing with and what the situation is. So my strategy for Piers Morgan was, I think he's an open-minded guy. We have to bear through 200 times he asks if we support Hamas or not, but we're gonna get to the right side. And it looks like Piers Morgan has gotten to the right side most definitively. That is wonderful to see. On the other hand, Dave Rubin required a different strategy, which is handing him his ass. And that also worked. So let's watch the culmination of both of those in this story.
Yeah, well, I think the most horrifying part of this debate, if you could even really call it that because it was so lopsided, was that Dave Rubin denied, just straight up, that anybody was suffering from hunger or malnutrition in Gaza. Take a look.
You acknowledge that there's been no starvation, correct?
No,
You don't acknowledge
I
that.
don't acknowledge that.
Well, there was starvation of the Israeli hostages, but you
Yes.
So where are the videos and images of the starving Gazans?
Well,
Rubin then demands photos of starving Palestinians like some kind of deranged internet troll, as if genocide requires a screenshot to be legitimate. He even brags about haircuts, suggesting that anyone with a clean fade must be well fed. This is the moment where Rubin goes from wrong to morally corrupt. He's not just lying, he's saying starving children aren't starving well enough for his standards. It's grotesque. Meanwhile, Pierce keeps calmly throwing receipts at him. Actual data, real bodies, measured fam statistics. And Rubin rejects all of it like a guy who thinks Wikipedia is a deep state propaganda. At this point, Piers Morgan isn't debating him. He's sweeping the ashes of Rubin's credibility off the floor.
I've seen a lot, but you would dismiss them all as fakes.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, if you can show me one, I'll tweet it out.
Okay, here's my problem with this.
Yeah.
So the problem is my number one problem with this You can say there's no starvation. I can say there's starvation. The UN says there was starvation, but you guys don't believe a word the UN says. The other official bodies say there was starvation. You don't want to hear a word they say. Israel denies everything. And in the end, the biggest problem is that Israel will not allow, to this day, international journalists into Gaza to do their jobs.
So when this all ended a few weeks ago, when Trump does this thing, where are all the thousands of starving people? I mean, we're seeing videos of restaurants that are
let the journalists in.
But the Gazans have phones, and they're showing videos of.
You can say that no Gazan has starved at all. That's entirely your prerogative.
Yeah.
The reports by almost every official body say the opposite, but you don't believe them.
Why did none of the Hamas fighters, when they're releasing the people, look hungry? A lot of them look fat. They have fresh clothes
I've
and
seen
fresh
lots of
haircuts.
images of Palestinians looking hungry.
He then challenged Piers to bust out his phone and show him the starving people, and said that what he sees is young men with, quote, perfectly cut hair with clothes that fit. There are no shortage of photos and videos of children and adults suffering from malnutrition in Gaza, as you all know. Some of them are too graphic to even share with you on the show because people in them are no longer alive. But here are some of the other options for Dave, since he claims that he'll happily tweet out any photos that prove him wrong. Let us know if you need the links to these, Dave. The first is 10-year-old Nafez. The second is 6-year-old Misk. And the third is 17-year-old Ayman. But photos are just anecdotal. What does the research say? According to the World Health Organization, as of September 5th, 2025, 361 Palestinians have died due to malnutrition, including 130 children. A Lancet study published in October found that after nearly 2 years of war and severe restrictions in humanitarian aid, tens of thousands of preschool-aged children in the Gaza Strip are suffering from preventable acute malnutrition and facing an increased risk of mortality. But that's not all Dave lied about. He also claimed that Israel didn't really want to take Palestinian land. Take a look.
You have a government with people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir who begin publicly, openly talking about ethnically cleansing all the Palestinians from Gaza, about annexing the West Bank, about taking complete control of all of it, to the point that Donald Trump had to step in and say that is not happening, and credit to him for doing that.
Sure,
so
but random ministers
they're not random
talking
ministers.
about,
They're two of the most senior people in the government. No. Smotrich and Ben-Gvir are not just right-wing, they're absolute far-right headbangers.
Meaning what? Meaning what? They haven't.
Meaning what? They want to ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people. Come on, Dave, they do.
They're in the government and they haven't taken an extra inch of the West Bank. They're not.
Well, actually, that's not true.
Rubin's next escape hatch? Pretending Israel hasn't taken land. He claims there's been no settlement expansion, a statement so detached from evidence it could be classified as fiction. This is weapons-grade dishonesty. Israel's settlement growth is documented, photographed, mapped, reported, verified, and Rubin acts like Google Earth doesn't exist. Piers again obliviates him with facts, while Rubin keeps retreating into the same two arguments. One, I haven't seen it, and two, have you been there? They are the rhetorical tools of someone who isn't debating. He's stalling.
They haven't.
They've been expanding settlers left, right, and centre.
No, they haven't.
Yes, they have.
Piers, they haven't.
Know they have.
Piers, have you been to the West Bank?
You don't think
have
there's
you been to the
any
West Bank?
expansion settlements on the West Bank?
They build apartments. They build apartments in current places.
Has there been an aggressive expansion of settlements in the West Bank in this war?
An aggressive expansion of settlements
in the West Bank during this war?
No, 100% not.
Dave, there has been.
So what's the truth? Israeli settlers have established at least 49 new illegal shepherding outposts and displaced more than 60 Palestinian communities across the occupied West Bank since October 7th, 2023. The areas surrounding all Israeli herding outposts now cover 14% of the entire West Bank, according to an analysis by watchdog groups Peace Now and Kerem Nava. And in September, Netanyahu signed an expansion plan or an Israeli settlement called Male Adumim, where Israel plans to build thousands more houses. The explicit goal of the settlement is to divide the West Bank. And to be clear, Israel announced these plans and other expansion plans in the West Bank. The idea that they haven't taken an inch isn't rooted in reality. It's a deliberate lie. And Jank, I want to bring you in here. Of course, we have to acknowledge this was never about the West Bank originally. It started in Gaza, and they used that as cover to continue these illegal settlements. What do you make of what Dave had to say?
Yeah, I am genuinely curious. Maybe we should have done a poll question about this, whether Dave is an enormous liar or dumb as a rock. And I know the standard answer is both, right? But I do tend to think it's one or the other. And there's some chance he just is so biased, so ignorant, that he never even bothered to look up the other side. That he was told Israeli propaganda, and he breathed it in and was like, yeah, that's obviously true. No, we took nothing from the West Bank. But brother, we got news story after news story after news story, by the way, from Israel, let alone in the press in the rest of the world, talking about the illegal settlement expansions, the tremendous violence that the settlers are doing against the Palestinians. By the way, 9 Americans killed, and our government does nothing about it. Does Dave Rubin even know that 9 Americans have been killed in the last 3 years by Israel? Does he care? Of course not, because they were Muslim Americans. So he's like, who cares? They're just, I mean, like, their racism and bigotry is so enormous, so overwhelming, that the main thing you get, whether it's ignorance or it's purposeful deceit, is the enormous indifference to anyone who isn't Israeli. Like, to him, the Palestinians, who cares? Israel murdered 20,000 Palestinian kids in Gaza. Who cares? Are they even human? They're not Israeli. Basically, Rubin is screaming throughout this interview debate, I don't care about Arabs or Muslims or any other human being that isn't Israeli. So that's why, oh, they were starving. No, they weren't. What is that? So look, Jordan gave you some of the numbers. I saw a different article at about 453 who starved to death, 150 kids who starved to death. But think about it, guys. If around 400 people starved to death, and Piers is right, if we had more international journalists in, we'd have a more specific number, right? So we have these numbers like over 68,000 killed, but there's tens of thousands buried in the rubble. So every day the numbers get added to as they pull dead bodies out of the rubble of Israel. So if there's 450 or so that already starved to death, that means almost the entire population was on the edge of starvation. That's why some people fell off that cliff and literally died from not having enough food. They starved an entire population until they started dying. Do you know how cruel that is? That is collective punishment. It is an obvious war crime. Now, look, you'll be able to tell how disgusting it is. Even if you grew up on American media propaganda, all I gotta do is reverse the roles. Imagine the Palestinians or Hamas was in charge of Israel, so that Israel was occupied territory, Tel Aviv was, Jerusalem was, Haifa was, etc. And Hamas started to starve the Jewish people in Tel Aviv to death. And we got reports out, another Jewish kid died, another Jewish kid died. Oh my God, 150 Jewish kids have died of starvation because they're doing collective punishment against the Jews. I would hope that the whole world and all of America would be outraged. I would hope that Dave Rubin and Piers Morgan and everybody would be outraged. And guess what? My hope would be fulfilled because that's all the media would ever talk about, rightfully so, right? But when it comes to the Palestinians, nah, who cares? Who cares if their children starve to death? Well, you're a monster, an absolute hideous monster. And this isn't about land. Do you see how he immediately changes Jordan to the West Bank? Already he's preposterously wrong or lying about the West Bank. But Gaza, he wanted to shift the subject from because Israel has already taken 53% of Gaza. Because this was always about land theft. They meant to go in there, they meant to steal the land, and we said that at some point during this genocide, and people were outraged, and then what happened? They said the Israeli side said, they're outrageous. We're not going to take an inch of land in Gaza. That's an anti-Semitic trope to say that we would start wars to take land. Except that's what 1948 was, that's 1967, that's today, that's Gaza. That's really how Israel got almost all of their land. Oh no, you're not allowed to say things that are true, you should be banned. I'm just sick of the disgusting people like Dave Rubin, who's pro-genocide, pro-land theft, disgustingly racist, and somehow American media painted them as the good guys and painted the Palestinians, their victims of over 75 years now, as the bad guys, as they were brutalized over and over and over again. And now Israel has stolen another portion of land by taking half of Gaza. Yet American press looks at that same debate, Jordan, and thinks that Dave Rubin won. I mean, so Dave Rubin is a clown of all clowns. He lied about us to no end. He's a giant liar, right? And that's what I've been telling you guys from day one, and now the entire internet agrees, left, right, center, doesn't matter. But what's amazing to me is that legacy media looks at that, and everyone online that looked at that debate was like, Piers Morgan annihilated him, right? Mainstream media looks at it and goes, oh yeah, good point. Nothing ever happened. Israel's right about everything. I can't believe Piers Morgan has become an anti-Semite Hamas supporter. I mean, there's a bunch of lunatics who run our corporate media right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few other things that Rubin said that were just so like laughably outlandish. Like, for instance, he said that the Palestinians already have a state. It's called Jordan. He threw around the famous Douglas Murray line. Have you been there a lot when Pierce would bring up things that are happening in Gaza or made points he didn't like? Which, let's note, they never invoke that when they talk about a right-wing cause. For instance, all of this hand-wringing and concern over Christians in Nigeria that has risen to the top levels of the Republican Party and the MAGA movement. No one within their ranks just saying, well, have you been there? As if that's some prerequisite to care about human rights violations and atrocities committed against human beings. No, it's never invoked there. It's only as a deflection point. But then finally, Dave couldn't help but take a shot at you, Jank, and brag about his non-existent debating skills. Take a look.
I will be completely, totally honest with you. About 8 months ago, I basically said to myself, I don't want to do Piers' show anymore, because the way the debates go, all of the people, the screaming, the lunatics, the jank, and these awful people, where you have a certain set of people largely on the right who come on that are thoughtful and can explain their ideas, and Wajat and all these nutbags. And I really swore it off. And then I did do it again. I did it the day after Charlie died, and I had to demolish jank the way I did with receipts.
This is where delusion goes full self-parody. Rubin boasts about demolishing his critics, while the internet has already crowned him the Fisher-Price hoop of political discourse. He's easy, he's flimsy, and he's embarrassing for anyone who takes it seriously. Rubin talking about receipts is like a goldfish bragging about its SAT scores. The man can't even acknowledge documented starvation. But sure, he's out here slaying debates. Yeah, no, he is not.
With receipts, Jank.
All right, yeah, Dave, ask the internet. Okay, whose career is utterly demolished? Who's the laughing stock of the internet? And who won that debate? And you could watch any Piers debate and see who won when I'm on. Okay, but no, look, Jordan, if it was a real contender, this would be an interesting conversation. But Dave's kind of giving me a softball here. I mean, it's not fair to put me up against Dave Rubin because everyone knows he's wrong. That's too low a bar. Give me someone real.
Yeah, it's like dunking on a Fisher-Price hoop. It's not really impressive. It might make you feel a little good, but it's just like, okay, let's go. I mean, he's such an easy target. But you saw that in his conversation with Piers Morgan. It's not just that he can't debate. He just doesn't accept and acknowledge reality. Like this, you're not having a debate when someone says, I've never seen Israel do anything wrong. I mean, he's taken money from foreign governments before. Maybe he's doing it again. Maybe it's just paid propaganda. But we can't discount the fact that, or the possibility that Dave Rubin is just incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
Both of equal likelihood.
Totally. And in fact, in that appearance that he referenced, he's like, he tried to make it seem like we were uniquely against Charlie Kirk, when the main criticism that I took was that I was too agreeable with Charlie Kirk, that I was the only one from the left that Charlie Kirk invited to America Fest. So like his arguments make no logical sense. If you were gonna come at me, you should at least have any kind of semblance of rationality. But to make the very worst argument, oh, the one guy that Charlie Kirk was willing to like bring to his conference from the left is the one who did him the most, that doesn't make any sense. But he's so dumb, he doesn't even know that. He doesn't understand the simplest things. And can I just say though, like to be fair to Dave, half of the Israeli talking points are so preposterous. All you gotta do is just tap them and they'll fall over. Like this, have you been there? Jordan makes a great point. Now just apply it to any other thing. Bashar al-Assad was a butcher in Damascus. He killed so many people in Syria. Imagine if they're like, oh no, he didn't. Well, what do you mean? We have all this reporting from the United Nations and human rights groups, etc. Have you been there? Why did I have to be in Damascus to know that Bashar al-Assad's a terrible guy and trust the reporting of all the other legitimate organizations, the same organizations doing the reporting about Israel? Okay, how about the Armenian genocide? Imagine if the Turks were like, have you been there? How the hell am I supposed to go in the middle of there? Okay, and go back in time travel? No, being there specifically, by the way, on a guided tour that is pure propaganda by the IDF doesn't help at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The IDF is like, oh, we'll take you on a tour of Disneyland over here, okay? And you see how we're so wonderful and humanitarian. Shut up, Palestinian, okay, right? Like, come on, go to the West Bank. Are you kidding me? They'd murder me in the West Bank. And they'd say, oh, who cares about that stupid American? Hey, American government, ignore all the Americans we've murdered, okay? And give me another $300 billion. So Dave, we all see you, and we see your beloved Israel and how they robbed us over and over again, how they use the proceeds of that robbery to commit a genocide. All of this never makes any sense. They're a special ally, doesn't mean anything. It's just a made up term. You could say it about anyone, okay? We have Judeo-Christian heritage. What does that mean? Why does that mean we owe Israel $300 billion? Every one of their talking points is utter crap. It's comically false. The only reason why it has stuck around at all is not because of clowns like Dave Rubin. It's because almost all of legacy media, almost all of cable news repeats those like ridiculous propaganda as if it's true, as if it's like, oh, such a good point. Have you been there? Oh my God, special ally. Or if they're such a special ally, that means we're an ally of theirs. Why don't they give us our $300 billion back? I saw Anna do a story on Ben Shapiro in the last hour. He says, oh no, America's gotten more benefits than Israel has from this relationship. Oh, then great news. Israel can get more benefits than us if they give us our $300 billion back. You wanna do that, Ben? You wanna do that, Dave? Oh, all of a sudden you don't, right? Because who do you actually care about? You care about Israel and you don't give a damn about America, and it's not complicated. And Piers Morgan, way to have an open mind, way to change your mind on this, and way to annihilate Dave Rubin. Great job by Piers Morgan.
This wasn't a debate, it was a televised execution. Piers Morgan didn't just win, he annihilated Rubin so thoroughly that Rubin's argument now needs humanitarian aid. Rubin did three things that were completely wrong. One, he denied starvation, despite corpses and medical reports. Two, he denied land theft, despite maps proving otherwise. And three, the worst of all, denied reality, because reality didn't support his propaganda. Piers Morgan walked in skeptical, listened, learned, and landed blow after blow. Dave Rubin walked in smug and left as a smoking crater. If this clip proves anything, it's simple. Facts destroy propaganda, reality destroys denial, and Piers Morgan absolutely destroyed David Rubin. Thank you for watching and listening to our video. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We'll talk with you the next time we need to uncover the real truth.